Welcome to Black Man Speak. I'm your co-host, J.R. Stewart,
And good evening, everyone. I'm your co-host, Tommy Duncan.
and tonight we have another interesting show for you. We are live every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Central Time, on here on YouTube. And for anyone who wants to join in the conversation, the chat line is open, so you can go in and leave your text comments, and the phone line will be open in about 5 minutes. I want to give a big thank out to Liquid for providing our theme music. And Tom, what's the discussion topic for tonight?
I think we're going to be discussing. Well, I don't think. I presume we'll be discussing the presidential debate. I believe the first of three that we're going to have during this election season, and it's very interesting. So, just before we go into this, make sure that we give folks the call-in number 972-497-2280. Again, 972-497-2280. So, tonight, the first of three presidential debates.
Do you think we're going to have three?
Well, I believe there are three scheduled, unless they cancel one
There are
or
three
more.
scheduled, but there are some in the Biden campaign that are saying they need to skip. In fact, Nancy Pelosi said that Joe Biden should even agree to debate Donald Trump.
Well, you know what? The American public, wants to hear what both sides have to say. I mean, they have some decisions to make, and I believe, for what it's worth, Jimmy, each side's base is kind of locked in. But there are a lot of folks who are still either one trying to make a decision, or number two have decided that they're not going to vote, and they probably need a reason to vote.
Well, Tom, for those who are locked in, I think you're correct on that. And for those who are not locked in, sometimes we call them independents. I don't know whether they have much of a choice. I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. I don't think they're going to hear anything during the debates that's going to make up their mind. So what it's going to come down to for you, for the independents, is the lesser of the evils. If you think Republicans are bad, if you think Democrats are bad, it's just going to come down to who do you think is worse, and then vote for the opposite party, or just not vote.
Yeah, that's true. And I think one of the issues that we do have to deal with is that demographically speaking, when we look at the folks who are voting the least, obviously that's going to be our younger generation, folks who feel that, both candidates are flawed. They really don't have anything significant to vote for, which I believe is a flawed strategy, quite frankly. Whether you don't like one worse than the other or the opposite, you are short-sighted if you don't believe you have any reason to vote in this upcoming election.
Well, I think for the Republican side, they have lots to vote for, and they have lots of enthusiasm, and I think they will show up in record numbers this election to vote for Trump. For
Absolutely.
Joe Biden, I'm just not so sure. I think he's going to lose a great deal of his base by by saying things like he support police, that he has his own energy plan and he doesn't support the Green New Deal, saying that he has his own plans, and that Bernie, he's not necessarily just a carbon copy of Bernie's plan. So you're going to alienate Bernie supporters. You're going to alienate the AOC supporters, and the radicals that are out there setting fires that you're bailing out of jail. You're going to alienate them too. So he has everything to lose. I don't see where he's going to gain very much because the Trump supporters are locked in. Come hell or high water, they're going to vote for Trump regardless. There's nothing he can
You're
say or
correct.
do
You're
that's
absolutely
going to
correct.
change their mind.
Yeah, I would agree with you 110%. Trump supporters are locked in, Biden supporters are locked in, and really the focus and the strategy is going to be finding those folks who, one, are trying to make a decision still, two, have decided they're not going to vote at this point, and you have to give a reason to vote. And the reality of it is, for those who have to make a decision, you have to figure out, number one, where your priorities are, what's most important to you. Some folks don't think it really matters, regardless of how they vote. They figure that they're going to get a raw deal, and I think, unfortunately, that's you don't know your history if that is your opinion. But to each their own. But in terms of In terms of what you were saying about Donald Trump, I would agree. I mean, everybody has their swim lane. And I believe that if Biden is going to pick up some of these voters, he's got to make sure that he is hitting them where it's important. Number one, obviously, having the right economic strategy. Number two, some people actually care about the country coming together. A lot of folks see a lot of divisiveness in the country. They see a lot of hatred. And some folks are going to be appealed to in their pocketbooks, and some people are going to be appealed to emotionally. But it's going to be a couple of different camps that he's going to have to appeal to through that process.
Well, Tom, I think you misunderstood part of my message. I don't think Biden's group is locked in. I think the left has some problems because they're so fractured, and to keep that coalition together, for instance, when he comes out and tries to toe the line on police support, well, a lot of his followers do not want him supporting the police. They are anti-police, period. They want to defund them. They want to get rid of them. So him coming out making statements about he stands with the police, excuse me, he runs the risk of alienating some of those supporters. When he comes out and says that he wasn't for the Green New Deal, which on his website, I checked today, and it still says that he supports the Green New Deal. So really he lied, and no one fact-checked him, but that's another story. He runs the risk of alienating the AOC in the nutcases in her wing. And then the other piece of let me see. The Bernie Sanders crowd. I mean, a lot of those folks already feel cheated in 2 elections. That the Democrat Party cheated them out of their nomination. And so when he comes out and says that he is a Democrat Party, not Bernie Sanders, well, just a few weeks ago, that Bernie Sanders was saying just the opposite. That the Democrat Party had embraced his ideas, his platform, his planks, and that him and his people had pretty much shaped the Democrat Party. Well, now old Jim Crow Joe is saying that no, that he's the party and that he's shaping the party, not Bernie Sanders. So he runs the risk of alienating some of those folks too. So he's going to have a hard time keeping that coalition together, and he needs all of it to have a chance. If any of that fraction off and those people don't vote, they're not going to come out and vote for Trump, but they may not go to the polls and vote at all if they feel disenfranchised.
Well, Jimmy, I think you have some good points there in terms of the fractured organization. It is not why neither party is a monolith. Neither party thinks the same. There are segments and fractions within the Democratic Party, just like there are fractions and segments in the Republican Party. Where I would tend to respectfully disagree is that, granted, there is a specific swim lane where you have Bernie Sanders supporters, and the reality of it is Bernie Sanders isn't running for president. Joe Biden is. And so at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you pull your segments together if you're running a complete campaign strategy. And quite frankly, there are going to be some Bernie Sanders supporters who are going to sit out this election, just like they're going to sit out that election. But where I believe that they are going to coalesce their resources is understanding either you want 4 more years of what you have right now, or you want to change. And that's what it's going to come right down to those folks who either feel that Bernie Sanders' way is the only way. And if they want 4 more years, they're going to sit out. But I think that there are a large enough number of people, Jimmy, out there who are saying either, we got 4 years and I'm either satisfied, or you got 4 years and it's time for a change. And I believe that there are enough folks within the left side of the party, maybe short of a few extremists, who feel that, I don't think we can deal with another 4 years of this, even if we deal with just the healthcare aspect of what's been happening over the last 8 to 9 months. But, we do have some time.
Well, you know what? We can call the toy maker. I'm not sure which company makes Play-Doh, but they may need to gear up production come November 4th after the election for all those people out there whose heads are going to explode. They're going to be looking for a safe space, claiming they're going to leave the country, which none of them ever do. That's amazing that we have these celebrity types always claiming they're going to leave if Trump's elected or Trump's reelected in this case. But somehow they never quite find a way to make it to the airport and pack their ass up and leave. So Tom, for those who cannot or think they cannot handle another 4 years, here's the shocker. You heard it here first. Not only will you have another 4 years of Trump, but you're going to have another 8 years of Donald Trump Jr. after this. So get ready for 12 years of the Trump family running the country. And you heard it here first.
All right, folks, you heard it here first. Not only 4 more years of Trump, but you're going to have 8 years of Trump plus Trump Jr. We'll see how that bet goes, Jimmy.
So yes, so I think Donald Trump Jr. for 2024 is already in the works. So you're looking at the new Kennedys. You know, Kennedys may have ruled during the '60s to some degree. I think Trump's are going to be the new political family coming up in the 21st century, at least at this point. I just don't see anyone on the horizon on the left, and for them to roll old Jim Crow Joe out to make him the face of the party, which he has problems. Not only was he the architect of the crime bill, but here's what people don't know, Tom. He didn't just write the crime bill. He wasn't just the chief architect of the crime bill. Every crime bill passed while he was in the Senate was written by him. So it wasn't just this one crime bill. He has shaped the criminal justice system and sentencing for a very long time. The only reason Clinton came to him for the crime bill, Clinton wanted 100,000 officers because he campaigned on that. He didn't care about the rest of the crime bill, but Joe was the man. So at some point, he's going to have to answer for the crime bill and his role in it, the fact that he wrote it, he helped pass it and many others, and black folks, once they start becoming aware, as much as they complain about sentencing guidelines, and here's a chief man who wrote those guidelines, and you think they're going to turn out in numbers to vote for him, the women will. So I hear he still has pretty strong support among black women,
Yes,
but he is losing black men left and right. They are jumping ship on him. So so it seemed like the brothers, some of them are coming to their senses and starting to realize that this man has really chiefly contributed to many of the problems in the black community. And for him to have the audacity to come ask for your vote now is amazing. But I give it to him. He had balls.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, man. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not for the thin skin, and I think it's very optimistic of you to present, those lines in terms of what you think is going to be important in this upcoming election, man. But there are going to be some folks who are going to be skewing towards the right, man. But I mean, you got to also acknowledge that there are a lot of folks on the right who also are dissatisfied with the way Trump has been handling business over the last 4 years, and you've had a lot of folks who are longtime Republicans who just don't advocate for Trump's politics. And so there's a little bit going both ways, Jimmy, if you
well, Tom, you know what? What you're saying is partially true.
Yeah,
so
that's not partially true.
Within the Republican Party, we do have establishment Republicans. We have Rhino Republicans. We have a lot of closet liberals that have an R in front of their name for political reason. And we have the Never Trumpers. And we have been slowly purging them out of the party. A lot of them jumped ship, decided they didn't want to run for re-election as long as Trump was president. That's fine. We are glad to get rid of them. The reality is the Colin Powells of and the Susan Collins and the I can't think of the senator from Alaska.
But Colin Powell is old news because that happened in 2016. We're talking about some. I'm not going to say all of them are blue bloods, but you're talking about some folks who've been in the Republican Party for a while who are starting.
And we are glad to get rid of them, Tom.
Absolutely.
For all the Never Trumpers out there that are in our party, we are glad to get rid of them. And all I can say is, go put a D in front of your name. Go vote for them. I mean, some of the Bushes are voting for Biden, and then I heard McCain's wife is Candy. I think is her name, Candy McCain.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but after Trump, man, dealt with McCain the way he did, it's kind of hard to not blame him.
Okay. Tom,
I mean, the guy. I mean, the thing about it is when you start. I mean, you can deal with the political side of it, but when you start talking about war veterans in the way that Trump talks about certain war veterans, especially POWs, and start talking about folks being losers because they happen to be a POW. That doesn't rub everybody the right way, Jim. You have to be very careful when you talk about folks who are laying their lives on the line for years and years for the freedom of this country.
Well, Tom, I have laid my life on the line for the freedom of this country also, and I certainly
Uh-huh.
understand that. But I would say this is that people need to be careful. Trump is not your typical spineless jellyfish Republican. He is somebody that's going to fight back. So when you attack him, he's going to attack back. He's not going to take the high road simply because John McCain's a POW. So McCain should have understood that early on and learned not to pick battles that you're not willing to fight and thinking that someone's going to play nice simply because your name is McCain and you're a war veteran. With that being said, McCain, personally, I mean,
Well, the
I
problem
wish.
is this, Jimmy. When you start making statements about folks are losers because they got caught, you're not just talking about John McCain.
That reference was to John McCain.
I understand, but when you start talking about calling people losers, our war veterans losers because they got caught, that doesn't just
Not war
connect with
veterans,
John McCain.
a war POW. One person. He was talking
I
about John
understand,
McCain.
but
So it wasn't a blanket statement over all POWs. This was
Jimmy.
directed directly at John
In,
McCain.
in his narrative, you just got to be very careful when you start talking about, I don't deal with losers, plural. You just have to be very careful about that.
I think that's just New York talk. Tend to talk in plurals, but the needless to say, the people such as myself, the far right constitutional conservatives, were never happy with John McCain. Although I did have to go into the voting booth and hold my nose and vote for him, had to go into the voting booth and hold my nose for Romney, had to go into the voting booth and hold my nose for Bush twice. And so now, but I've been
So
sitting there waiting.
why would you have to hold your nose, Jimmy? I mean, if it's party over everything else, why would you have to hold your nose? If that's the
Yeah, Tom,
Republican
these are establishment Republicans, and so for those who just don't keep up and don't know the inner workings of the Republican Party, we have our groups also,
of
and
course.
so the two largest groups are the constitutional far right conservative Republicans and the establishment Republicans, and so the heart and soul of the Republican Party are the conservatives. They've always been. The conservatives are the ones that push Lincoln into freeing the slaves, ending slavery. They're the ones who push the administration into occupying the South and taking control to liberate blacks and to help them get into schools, start businesses, participate in government. So
And
you talk about
ended up Jimmy also having an agreement with the segregationists is to withdraw from.
no,
And we
actually,
know
Tom,
what
that was an establishment Republican. So
we know.
that's the point I'm trying to
But
make to
but
you.
but but if
That
but
was
Jimmy,
Republican
if
Party.
they were the heart and soul of the Republican Party, then they made a deal with the Southern
They did not. They
segregationists.
did not. So this is where you're wrong. So they put in Reconstruction. They put in those measures, but once again, those measures in occupation were not going to last forever. At some point, the Union had to leave the South, and you're right. So it was an establishment Republican who made that sort of gentleman's agreement. But at that point, most of the Union Army was already gone anyway. So there wasn't very much left at that point that deal was made. But that was an establishment Republican, and that's my point. When it came down to
But
women's
Jimmy, what you
suffrage,
have to understand
when
is
it comes down to the
people
right
don't.
of blacks to vote, it was always conservatives fighting for freedom, not necessarily the Herbert Hoover type Republicans who were more about trying to win over white people and I guess call themselves being fiscal hawks more than anything else. But like I said, within our party, we do have establishment versus conservatives, and the conservatives have always been the heart and soul to do the right thing wing of the party versus the establishment. So George Bush and the rest of the establishment, we have to support them. We hold our nose, but as you can see, that when we get a true conservative uh, in the White House to represent the party, they jump ship. They don't support our conservative candidates, although the conservatives have to turn around and hold their nose and support the establishment Republicans. So, but that's our own internal battle. That's not worth debating out here. But Trump will help solidify the party. He has done that. He's been a godsend. He's exactly what the Republican Party needed. Someone who's going to fight, stand up, because as we're attacked on a daily basis by CNN and MSNBC and the rest of the alphabet news. George Bush never stood up for the Republican Party, never stood up for people like me. He allowed us to be called all kind of names, foul names, vicious names. Not once did he ever waste 1 ounce of breath to defend conservatives. But he always, come begging for their vote when it comes time to run for either the office or for re-election. And that's just what backstabbers do. So the fact that they're jumping ship and leaving the party, we are very happy and delighted that they are. If they go vote for Biden, he can have them. It's best for us to be a minority party, to be the small party with true conservatives, than to try to build a party with a bunch of backstabbers because, when it comes down to, like for instance, all of them ran to get rid of and appeal Obamacare. And when Obama was president, they knew he would never sign his own appeal. So they passed 52 appeal bills knowing that Obama wouldn't sign it. But as soon as Trump gets in office and now you have someone that will actually sign the bill, where were they? They finally mustered up enough support to get an appeal bill through and to come up with a new design for health care. And who sabotaged it? John McCain. And so you tell me why we should be very happy that the man who campaigned that he would get rid of Obamacare is the one who ended up saving it.
Jimmy, with all due respect, most folks are not able to discriminate between establishment Republicans.
Oh, they're not. That's true. If you're outside the party, that's true.
At the end of the day, it's Republicans and it's Democrats, and that's all it really comes right down to it.
But okay.
So whether we're talking about 100 and some odd years ago and opening up the country to the segregationists of the world who reigned terror on black folks until this day, or whether we're talking about Obamacare or whatever it is you want to call it. I mean, people ultimately see the same thing. They see one color. They see red or they see blue. They see left or they see right. Obviously, the independents, they may have a little bit more wherewithal to begin to discriminate in terms of their vote. But ultimately, when you look at these folks who either won or not voting, getting back to, I guess, our original topic, or you start talking about folks who are trying to figure out who to vote for, they're asking about not the Republican Party or the Democratic Party platform, but where the country is going and who's best to lead the country, to unify the country, to take the country through the next part of this
That's
millennium.
a pipe dream. There is no unification.
At the end of the day, if you're talking about winning, at the end of the day, if you look at the last election or the last few elections, at the end of the day, sometimes it can be a very razor-thin margin, as you know, Jimmy, and so those votes do count.
Those votes do count, but there will be no unification. Unless the left is willing to give up and abandon white privilege, give up their racist ways, and come join us on the conservative side, there will be no unification. No, we don't have those kind of Republicans anymore that's going to jump the aisle and go work with the left. Those John McCain, George Bush, Romney type Republicans are gone now. They have Colin Powell. They have left the party, and good riddance. So if there to be unification, the left will have to come join the right. The right is not going to come join the left anymore. That's done. So I don't think the left is going to come join us anytime soon. With that being said, Tom.
Agreed.
Yes. So with that being said, everyone now is going to have to line up and pick a side. So either you want lawlessness, you want protests, you want riots, you want burning of buildings, destruction of property, confiscation of private property, private and public, and you want more of that, then go vote for Jim Crow Joe.
Well, at the end of the day, Jimmy, there are some people who want justice. There are some people who want equality. There's people who want a solid education. There are some people who want equal justice under the law, Jimmy. Equal justice under the law.
Written by John, the architect of the crime bill, the citizen guideline, is who you voted for.
Jimmy, this is not the presidential debate. I'm just kind of putting something out. So you put your theory out there. I'm putting my theory out there, and I'm talking about the folks whose votes Joe Biden and Donald Trump are going to be competing for. There are some folks who are not looking red or blue. You are right, but they've got to make a decision. There are some folks who are focused on who they feel is going to be the advocate for justice, equal justice in this country. There are some folks who are looking for, you know what, someone who has a plan for the best education for their children, someone who is going to figure out how to manage this country through this healthcare crisis. There are fundamental things, Jimmy, that they're cross parties that they are looking for, and they are going to focus on who is the best candidate who is going to get us over this chaos that they feel that this country is in right now. Whether it has to do with what they consider is the issue of police brutality, whether it has to deal with what they consider is the issue of this healthcare pandemic, whether they feel that it has to do with what's happening with the poor education that we have in this country relative to other major world powers in the world. So there are a lot of issues that folks are dealing with. They are not tied to politics. And if you are going to win in this race and race moving forward, you have got to have a plan that you feel is not going to be a perfect candidate, but who is going to unify the country, not unify parties, but who is going to unify more of the people so that we can stop being focused.
Every one of those issues is tied to politics. Every one of them.
I understand that. I said political party, not politics. Political party, because
Each
these are folks who
is tied to a political party.
Jimmy,
also,
what I'm suggesting is this: folks who are going to win are going to pull folks who may not be tied to a political party. So they're going to have to be focused on certain areas that are not going to be either you become red or you become blue in order to win. You have got to address the principal issues, not always the party line rhetoric.
The party line rhetoric. Okay. Well, I will. I guess I will give you that. I'm gonna have to give that some thought though. So it may come to me later on. I may send you a text.
Because quite frankly, there are a lot of people, for what it's worth, who are tired. And these are the folks who are not voting. These are the folks who are in the middle. These are the folks who are not going to what they consider sell their soul to the Democratic or the Republican Party. They are tired of the rancor. They are tired of the partisan politics. They are tired of the fighting back and forth.
God is a conservative Republican. What are you talking about?
But these are, Jimmy, also folks who are voting. They're voting, and they do make a difference.
You can't get tired, Tom. God is on our side. God is a conservative. So this comes down to the greatest battle between good and evil. This has been prophesied in the Bible. We're living through it now. The preachers keep telling you that these are the end times. So why isn't nobody listening? We are in the end time. This is good versus evil. This is us versus them. So yes, you have to line up on a side. The Bible has been telling you this for years. And this is what it's coming down to. Good versus evil. Line up on a side. Which side are you going to be on? You going to be on the side of Jim Crow Joe? Or are you going to get on the side of God?
Jimmy, I don't remember them talking about political parties in the Bible, Jimmy.
Tom, they couldn't have at that time. They were prophesying it, but that doesn't mean the prophecy is not coming true. We are living. Okay, now surely you've heard at what? I'm not going to say the church you go to. I'll keep that private. But surely you've heard your preacher say that we're in the end times. I know I'm not the first person to say.
Jimmy, they've been talking about the end of time for God knows centuries, Jimmy. They've been talking about the end of the days for centuries. It's written in the Bible.
And so that just lets you know that the end times
and we're talking about, that was what, about 300, I believe it was 311 AD that they stamped what they stamped in the King James versions of the Bible. That was very strategic. It was political, I would agree with you, but it was very strategic. They've been talking about the end of time since 300 AD.
Tom, the end of time is very fluid. It doesn't necessarily mean the end of time. It means an end for your generation. And there were major battles between good and evil. So there will always be end times. So every generation or two is going to have an end time moment. And this is our end time moment. But we're almost out of time. Let's get down to the debate itself and kind of abandon that. So who do you think won the debate?
You know, I don't know. it's quite frankly, when you start talking about who won the debate, it's going to come down to what side you're on. And when I say what side you're on, most Republicans are going to say Donald Trump won the debate. Democrats, I'm sure, are going to say that Joe Biden won the debate. Independents and other folks who are trying to make the decisions, they're going to say that, you know what, there wasn't a clear winner, but there was definitely a clear loser. And I think that was the audience who was watching it.
Well, I think for achieving the objectives, I think Donald Trump came in to bully Joe. Now, Joe did a little better than I expected. He didn't have as many gaps as we thought he was going to have. He didn't stumble as much. But the bar is set really low. I mean, if that's defining winning, that you don't have major gaps and stumble and you don't forget where you are and what state you're in and what city you're in, that's not saying a whole lot. But I will give him credit. He seemed to keep his composure. He did have a couple of moments where it seemed like he was on the brink of losing his cool with the name calling. But we'll give him a pass on that because he's Jim Crow Joe, and that's just what he does, Crazy Joe.
Jimmy, one thing I will have to say though, I thought was, and I actually told a couple of people that I quite frankly expected Donald Trump to wipe the floor up with Joe Biden. And I've not honestly seen Joe Biden debate a lot, but my expectation, I actually told a couple of people this, I would be very surprised if Donald Trump didn't wipe Joe Biden up in this debate. And I was quite frankly a bit surprised that it didn't happen, just because of his bully platform, just because of kind of the optics of what we've been seeing. And I thought I was quite intrigued by the fact that I don't want to say that he got irritated or he got on the defensive somewhere into the debate, but I was a bit surprised by his manner during especially the mid to the latter part of the debate. And I was expecting a little bit more from Donald Trump, quite frankly.
Well, I think Donald Trump came in with that was his game plan, to bully him and push him around, get him frustrated.
That's exactly what I was expecting.
So he accomplished that, and I think Joe came in with the goal of not to have a gaffe, not to lose track of where he was and what he was running for, and some of his famous gaffes that he's done in the past, or just total outright memory loss. So he didn't have one of those moments. But that's not asking a whole lot. That bar is set really low if that's all you're asking of someone. So I will give Jim Crow Joe credit for being able to maintain and hang in there. But it's only going to get worse for him in the next two debates, if he even have them. So
we'll see what happens, Jimmy, because, I mean, quite frankly, Donald Trump seemed to get a little bit unnerved at times. I mean, I won't say he was turning red. He wasn't turning beet red, but he seemed to get pretty aggravated, on too many occasions. And it kind of took him, from what I saw, the optics of it, out of his game a little bit. And so, I think, the way I see this, Jimmy, this was kind of a sparring match. I mean, when you think of a prize fight, a sparring match, folks are kind of sizing each other. They're jabbing a little bit, kind of getting a feel for the presentation side of the opponent. And then obviously there was the debacle of, Trump getting into it with the moderator, and then of
once
course,
again, it's 2 against 1 time.
And at the end of the day, because they are doing this for the public. The public wants to see a debate. They do not want to see a debacle.
Well, Tom, and they certainly don't want to see the moderator having to protect and provide cover for one side. So
no, it's not protecting. It's being able to finish a question. Being able to allow both sides to present their arguments or their platform.
Well, but that didn't happen, Tom.
Clearly, because someone wouldn't allow it to, Jimmy.
Well, the moderator many times stepped in to help Joe out.
The moderator couldn't even get a question out, Jimmy.
No, that's not true, Tom. You got questions in, man. Let's not exaggerate.
Come on, Jimmy.
Trump did bully up on him, but there were several times when the moderator said, let Joe answer, because you called it, you asked him a question, or you mentioned his name.
Because he kept interrupting him.
Hold on, Tom. Let me just finish the statement.
Yeah.
But when Trump tried to insert himself to say, okay, he mentioned me by name, let me respond, Chris would cut him off. So the frustration that you're talking about is the fact that And he realizes that every one of these debates is going to be 2 against 1. Every person they put up there to moderate is going to be someone who doesn't like Trump. And they're not, and if they think that he's bullying pro Joe, they're going to step in and try to defend Joe. So if Joe is going to be a leader, Joe has to be able to stand up for himself. If Trump is bullying you, then stand up for yourself. You don't need to moderate and step in. And then if you're going to let, if Trump mentions Joe by name and you're going to let Joe respond, to his comment, give him 2 minutes. Okay, when Joe mentions Trump by name, Trump is now expecting to get his 2 minutes to reply, but you can't shut that down. So that's what that back and forth sparring with Chris was about. But Chris is the most liberal person on Fox. He doesn't like Trump, and every one of these moderators is going to be exactly like that, except the ones in the future are going to be even worse than Chris. So, but Trump is going to get used to that.
Trump has got to decide what he wants to get out of this debate. And
he got what he wanted out of it. So he wanted to push Joe around and show that he is a leader.
I mean, maybe you saw a different debate. I didn't really see a bunch of pushing around, Jimmy. Obviously, I saw a bunch of attempted bullying, but in terms of pushing around, in terms of what the audience needed to, because at the end of the day, this is all about getting votes. And so the reality of it is you can bully your way around, but if it's not getting across to the audience you need to get to, because the votes that you got are the votes that you got, you're out there getting more votes, and you need to make sure that you're appealing to the votes that you need to get to close the gap. Because by the way, he is, I don't know, at least somewhere around 8 or so points behind Biden in the national polls, and obviously whoever believes in those. But at the end of the day, you got to take him, somewhat.
If he's 8 or 9 or 10 points behind the poll, that means he's winning, just like the last election. So when he said, "I've done more in 47 months than you've done in 47 years," Joe didn't have a response. When he said that you don't have a single police organization, these are unions, police unions, which normally were heavy supporters of the Democrat Party. He said, "You don't have a single one. I've gotten all of them." Joe said, "No, I got some." He said, "Well, name one." Couldn't name them. And when
Jimmy, if you would let him finish anything that he said,
but hold on, Tom. But that's the point, though. He's forcing Jim Crow Joe to take stances that he know will hurt Joe with his base. Going against AOC is going to hurt Joe. Going against Bernie Sanders is going to hurt Joe. Standing up for police and law and order is going to hurt Joe. All these things are going to hurt him at his base, and he forced Joe.
I don't know if standing against police is going to help anyone, Jimmy, because him going up there and saying I don't support, which isn't his platform. Him saying that I don't support the police isn't going to help anybody running for president of the United States.
Well, a lot of his base, Tom, doesn't want to support police.
I understand that, but again, Jimmy, you have to understand that. Just like within the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, you got several swim lanes, Jimmy. You can't appeal to everybody all the time.
Okay, and that's my point, and we can get ready and close out because we are a little bit over time. Joe has a lot more to lose. It's going to be harder to keep his group of lunatics on the left all together. And they have some that are out there that are really out there that, and they're a cancel culture. You don't say the right thing, you don't walk step with them, man, they cancel you quickly on that side. Trump is going to keep his coalition together. They are not going to split off. They're not going to care whether you say anything about the far right or white supremacy or didn't say this or didn't say that. They're going to be up. They're going to be there. And they're going to show up. Joe going to have to struggle to keep all this the lunatics on his side together. And when they get pissed off and you decide not to come out and vote, that's going to hurt them. But we'll see what happens, though.
Yeah, we certainly will. Time will tell.
So I'm going to go ahead and predict the outcome that Trump wins this election by 84 electoral votes. It's going to be a wipeout. So it'll be 10 or 12 more than when he beat Hillary, but it will be a wipeout as far as he's going to expand the Republican map because Joe is just not going to be able to keep it all together.
Time will tell.
And so when we come back after the election and do a show, when it's been proven that I'm correct, then I will expect that you will say those magic words, Jimmy, you were right.
That's going to be a mouthful. We'll see. Time will tell.
So with that being said, guys, we're about 10 minutes over, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We want to thank you guys for listening. We didn't have anyone join the chat line or call in, but guys, you know that's always open, so you can participate in the conversation. And please do us a favor, spread the word, hit the subscribe button and the like and the share button, and help us grow the channel. With that being
Absolutely.
said, Tom, I'll give you the last word.
Hey, we want to thank, of course, everyone again for joining us tonight. If you could, please subscribe to our channel. If you have any ideas or thoughts in terms of what you would like to hear us address, please let us know. Send us a note. We are focused on issues that affect our community. And of course, we are Black Men Speak. So we must stand up and we must lead. That is our cause. That is our mission. That is the only thing we must do. So continue to have a great week. Continue to fight the good fight. And we will see you next time. Thank you.
And we are out, everyone.